Hey guys, how's it going? So, bear with me here. I'm still struggling a little bit with my camera. As you can see, my camera doesn't want to work. Um, but I at least got my document camera working, so I can go through some stuff like this. So, we'll see how this works for you. Um, what we want to talk about today is some applications of these percentages. Okay, we've talked about kind of how to calculate some percentages, and yeah, you can use the proportion method or you can use the decimal version. I'm going to stick more with the decimal version today, but you can use the proportion as well with a lot of these. It just becomes a little bit harder with multi-steps. So that's why I like to use the equation method with the decimals. So one application is what we call commission. Okay, it's a way a lot of people get paid in real life. So, for example, a car salesman. A car salesman is probably going to get paid on we call commission, and what that means is how much you get paid is going to be you're going to have some sort of base salary plus a commission, and the commission is going to be a percentage of your sales. So what that means is, for example, you might have a base salary of $20,000. Okay, so that means you're going to get $20,000 no matter what happens. Okay, and then that car salesman might sell. He might have sales of, let's say, $300,000. Okay, but then he only gets a percentage. His commission is going to be, let's say, 5% of his sales, right? So if this is the scenario, well, his total pay is going to equal his base salary, which would be $20,000. He's going to get that no matter what. Okay, and then he's going to get his percentage of his sales. Well, his sales is 5%, so that as a decimal would be 0.05, and then he gets that times how much he sold, which we said was $300,000, right? So he doesn't get the full $300,000. He gets a percentage of that. So all I would do, grab a calculator, and I would just kind of type that in as I would probably say 0.05 times that 300,000. There you go. Okay, so he gets $15,000 in commission plus the original $20,000, so he would get a grand total of $35,000 for the year. Okay, so with commission, obviously the way it works is the more you sell, the more commission money you would get, right? So that's why, if you go to a car salesman or you go to any store that the workers work on commission, that's why they're always, tracking you down, following you in the store, because they want to sell you stuff, because the more they sell, the more money they get, right? That same worker, okay, if he sells, let's say, $500,000 worth of, cars or whatever he's selling. Well, that same person, his total pay is going to be, he originally gets that $20,000 no matter what. If he sells nothing, he gets $20,000 plus he gets 5% of how much he sells. Well, if he sells $500,000, right? Well, if I grab that calculator and go 0.05 times $500,000, that's going to be $25,000, right? Plus the 20, you'd get a grand total of $45,000. Okay? So again, the way you do commission is you have a base salary, you get that no matter what. But then you get a percentage of how much they sell. Okay? So that's one example of a percentage in action. Another one is what we call simple interest. Well, in simple interest, what we talk about is, like, we use this for if we're investing money, we use it if we're taking out loans and things like that. And what that means is, and here's the formula, it's I equals PRT. Well, in I equals PRT, the I stands for the interest. That's how much extra money, okay? The principal is either how much money you're borrowing or how much money you're investing. Like, that's the actual investment, or that's the actual loan. The rate is the percentage rate, and the T is obviously time. So for example, okay, if I borrow, let's say $30,000, okay, I want to fix my bathroom up and I'm going to borrow $30,000, okay. The bank tells me it has a rate of, we'll say 6%, and then it's going to take me 5 years to pay it off, okay. So what that means is I can just use that formula, I equals PRT. I is the interest, the P is my principal, so I'm borrowing $30,000. The rate is 6%. That as a decimal is 0.06. The time is 5 years. So I just multiply those three numbers together. So if I take my calculator and go 30,000, I times that by 0.06, and I times that by 5, I get a grand total of 9,000. So what that means is I'm going to have to pay $9,000 in interest. Okay, so basically the bank would give me $30,000 to fix up my bathroom. I would have to repay the loan. I would have to pay back the 30, but I'd also have to give them an additional $9,000. So the bank is going to get $39,000 out of me in the end. Okay, so that's how simple interest works. And this could be an example of a loan where I borrowed money, or it could be an investment. So this could also be, I'm investing. If I give the bank, instead of borrowing $30,000 in the same scenario, if I gave them $30,000 to invest at 6% for 5 years, it'd be this exact same math. The bank would then give me an additional $9,000 worth of interest. So I would give them 30, wait 5 years, they would give me 39. Okay? So that's how simple interest works. And again, the I is just purely the amount of interest. Tips is another example where we use percentages. Okay, common practice. Common tips are 15% is what we consider standard. A good tip, and really it's getting closer these days to 20%, is what a lot of people try to tip all the time. Okay, and the way you do that is simply you take your bill. Now, your bill might be $60 to go out to dinner. Okay, and yeah, the common practice, a lot of people say you don't tip on the tax. Whether or not you use the tax, I do. I just look at the bottom line and I tip on that. But some people look at, before they put sales tax on there, things like that. But I don't worry about that. So let's say my bill is $60. Okay? I take my wife out to dinner. We have a nice dinner, and the bill at the end of the day comes to $60. Okay? So I want to leave a tip. Okay? If I want to leave let's say a 15% tip. Okay? Well, the official way is you're just going to take the tip, or to figure out the tip, you're going to multiply the bill, so that's $60, times the rate, which is 0.15. Okay? Now, you guys are my students. If I ever see you guys grab a calculator to calculate something like this, I'm going to get upset. There's a really, really easy way to do this in your head. 15%, you would agree, is the same thing as 10% plus 5%, right? Well, 10% of 60 is really easy to calculate. You just move the decimal over one. It's 6. And then 5% of 60, well, 5 is half of 10, so half of 6 is 3. So that means 15% of 60 has to equal 9. So I would leave a $9 tip, okay? And then you can calculate the total. If I wanted to leave a tip of 20%, right? Again, the formal way, the tip would equal the 60 times 20% as a decimal, which would just be 0.2. But you can also think of 20% as just 10% plus 10%. So 10% of 60 is 6. Oops, just 6. Which means another 10% of 60 is 6, which means 20% of 60 would be 12. So I would leave a $12 tip. And you can do this with any bill. If you have the bill comes out to $54.30, okay? If you want to use the change and be real precise, then go ahead. I would usually just round that to 54, but that's just me. But if you wanted to leave a 15% tip, it actually is really, really easy. You would just say, what's 10% of 54.30? Well, that's really easy. It's $5.43. Just move the decimal over once. 5% of that number is exactly half of that, okay? Now, that one might be a little bit harder, which is why I wouldn't have used the change. Like I would have rounded that to 54, which would make that a lot easier of a calculation, okay? But, if you do that, comes out to $2.72, which means 15% of that, you just simply add those two numbers together. 5, that'd be 11, 12, so $8.25 would be the tip. Okay, so this would be the amount of money you'd be giving the waitress. That would be the total. You add those together, come up with your total bill. Okay. Sales tax is another example of where we'll see percentages. Okay. In Michigan, we still pay a 6% sales tax, right? Now, with sales tax, there's two different ways you can calculate that. Let's say you go to the store, you buy a radio for $150. Okay? Now, there's two different ways you can do this to figure out the total price. Yes, you can find the tax by going, what is, I don't know why I put a percent there, $150. Okay? So you take the tax, you would take the price of the radio and times it by 0.06. Well, if I take $150, times that by 0.06, that tells me I'm going to have to pay tax of $9, which means the total price would equal the 150 plus the $9 in tax, or $159. Another way you can think of this is you can just calculate the total price right away. If you just think, what percent do I have to pay? Well, I have to pay 100% of the price, right? Like the store is going to make you pay 100% of the price, plus the 6% of the price again in tax, right? This is just the cost of the radio plus the cost of the price, or the cost of the tax. Basically, you're going to have to pay 106%. So if you think of it that way, the total price would just equal the 150 times 1.06. If you just simply, instead of multiplying by 0.06, if you just simply put a 1 in front and think of it as I'm going to multiply by 1.06, it will automatically add the 9 in to the original cost. It'll take the tax and it'll add it in, okay? And that's true with any number. Okay? So let's try a few problems kind of out of the book here. See where we're going. So let's look at number 2. So number 2 says a sales representative earns a 2.5% commission rate on sales. Find the commission he earned when the total sales were $80,700. Well, his commission, there's no base salary. His commission would just equal the sales rate of 2.5%. Well, that as a decimal, if you move it over twice, would be 0.025 times the sales, which would be the 80,700. So I would just simply grab my calculator, type in the 0.025, and then times that by 80,700. The answer to number 2 is 2017.50. That's how much they'd make in commission. Let's try number 3. Karen earns a salary of $28,600 plus the 4.5 commission. So that one, Karen earns a salary of $28,600 plus 4.25%. Well, that as a decimal is going to be 0.0425 of the commission on sales. Find her total earnings when the sales are, so the sales were 310,000, and I would again just multiply. So that one I would grab my calculator. I would type in the 0.0425. I'm going to times that by the 31,000 or 310,000. Get that total, and then add in the 28,600. So that would mean the answer is that person would get $41,775 for the year. Okay? Sorry about that. I was off the screen. Didn't realize. Does that make sense? So let's try another one here. Let's say we want to do number 4. Find the total amount of simple interest. Well, remember the simple interest formula is interest equals PRT. Interest equals the principal times the rate times the time. Find the simple interest, so we don't know the interest. Earned after 2 years, so my time is 2. $480 was invested, so that's my P. And the rate, 7%, well, 7% as a decimal would be 0.07. So again, I would just simply multiply. 480 times 0.07 times 2. The answer is 67.2. All right, simple enough. Let me know if you guys have any trouble on these. I put the homework in the in Michigan Virtual, so let me know if you guys have any trouble. I will talk to you guys later.